שיעבירו את זה. עדיף, בסדר, אתם לא צריכים להפציץ אותי, הבנתי. בצ'אט אתם יכולים לרשום שאלות, עדיף באנגלית, מי שכתוב באנגלית בעברית אז אני אתרגם להם. הוובינר, תשימו לב, הוא יסתיים בשעה 8:45, כי החברים שמעבירים את הוובינר צריכים ללכת לעיסוק אחר, אז יש לנו וובינר ממש מתומצת, ואנחנו מוצאים ממנו את העיקר. אם יהיו שאלות אחרי הוובינר, אז תעבירו אותם אליי, ואני אעביר להם את זה. אתם יכולים להעביר את זה דרך קבוצת הפייסבוק, מיסים בעולם האי-קומרס. אני רוצה רק לציין, לנצל את ההזדמנות ולציין שב-31 לחודש יש וובינר מדהים של פרסום מחוץ לאמזון, כדי להביא תנועה חיצונית לאמזון, לאי-ביי, למקומות אחרים, אז מי שרוצה להשתתף בוובינר הזה מוזמן לקבוצת אמזון נון-סטופ, יש שם את הפרטים. בוובינר הזה שעכשיו אנחנו נדבר על פתיחת תיקי מע"מ באירופה, מתי צריך לפתוח, מי צריך לפתוח, מי צריך לפתוח, מתי צריך לפתוח, ואיך תכלס עושים את הדברים האלה. הוובינר הוא נערך באנגלית, האנגלית שלהם מאוד מאוד ברורה, אין לכם מה להיבהל. אם יהיו אנשים שלא יבינו את האנגלית שלהם, אז מוזמנים אחרי זה לפנות אליי עם שאלות, ואני אעזור ואני אסביר, ונעביר את הוובינר לחבר'ה פה, כי הזמנם קצר, ובטח יהיו לכם שאלות. אני מזכיר לכם, יש לכם פינה של צ'אט, שאתם יכולים לשאול שאלות, ומי שמסתבר שישלח לי וואטסאפ או משהו, ל-0522-501-345, ואני אעביר להם את האינפורמציה. Jonathan and Ryan are here from VATGlobal. They are specialists in all the VAT in Europe, and I will go offline with my photo, with my video, so they can start the presentation, and hopefully you will understand what you need to do when you start selling online in Europe. Jonathan, you can start.
Hi everyone, you're listening to Jonathan. Thank you very much for joining the...
Jonathan, if when you're talking, if Ryan can check, people tell me that the chat is closed. They cannot write in the chat because it's closed for them.
Okay, let me quickly, before we do this, for all entire audience.
Okay.
Perfect. So again, welcome to the webinar. Very excited to explain the consequences from a VAT perspective around selling in Europe. I think a simple way to start the webinar is to explain a little bit about who VATGlobal is, what we can do, and then we can move into a couple more complex examples. So VATGlobal really assists businesses from all over the world, very much directed at their international trade. We take over from start to finish the complexities of managing VAT and other indirect taxes, bearing in mind 90% of the taxes that you will incur overseas will be VAT. Now, we deal with around 40 jurisdictions. That grows on a quarterly basis. We'll probably be able to deliver the service in around 54 countries by the end of this year. So wherever it is you want to trade, VATGlobal can really provide the same level of service. Now, our global network and operational resources enable us to serve over 8,000 clients. It's closing in on around 9,000 clients based all over the world, from South America to Australia, Japan, Israel, Europe, America, and again, these do range from massive corporations all the way through to a seller who has just started selling on Amazon in Germany. Now, the services we provide and what an Israeli-based company would need is fiscal representation. I don't think it's overly important to understand what that is now, but it is something Israeli-based companies need when trading in Europe, and it is something that we do provide. We also provide the actual VAT reporting, the registrations. We supplement all of our service with technology, so sellers can engage with VATGlobal through an online portal. We do IORI and deferment licenses, which is when a seller imports, you need an import license. So we assist you in a very whole dimension in that we allow you to get your goods into Europe, as well as the ongoing compliance once trading in Europe, ensuring that you do trade in a fully compliant perspective. Now, during my discussion with Lior, there were certain questions that he received quite a lot. So we have tried to design this webinar to answer those questions. Again, you will have complex scenarios, and when you do, I think the best advice is to reach out to Lior, who will then push you through to us, and we can discuss it on a case-by-case basis. But in a general sense, a lot of sellers do sell on Amazon and use FBA. So I think that's a really good place to start. And again, this scenario applies to Germany as well, Spain, Italy, and France. The rules in Europe are quite standard. So if I use FBA in the UK, what are my VAT obligations? It's generally the first thing you would do is have goods in the UK, and the concept of FBA means that you own stock in a country where you use FBA. Now, upon owning stock in a foreign country, so that stock could range from 5 units to 5,000 units, the law is quite clear in that you immediately need to be VAT registered, and it does not matter if you make a subsequent sale. So owning that stock triggers a VAT registration, and once you are then VAT registered, you are then required to report quarterly as well as charge VAT on all sales. So in this example, the first thing is that you immediately need a VAT registration. There is a concept of import VAT. Now, this is generally the cost to get your goods into the EU. They do call it the cost of free circulation in Europe. So you bring in 100 units of your item, and 20% of that value is payable before your goods can enter into the UK or into the EU. Now, it is a cash flow burden in that it's a cost that you pay right up front. However, because you now own stock in the UK, you are able to claim that back on your VAT return, which you have to submit each quarter. Again, these concepts might seem quite confusing, and they are not easy. So again, if you do use FBA in the UK, then you need to know you need to be VAT registered. And again, if you reach out to us, we're able to explain on a greater detail exactly what activities have triggered the need for a VAT registration. Now, the VAT registration is the first element, but before you can actually import, you do need an import license. Now, that is called an IORI number, and there's no cost to get an IORI number, and it just allows you to move your goods into the UK quite quickly. So they're not going to get stuck at the border or at the port. They will get cleared, moved into the Amazon fulfillment center, and you will then be able to sell within a very short period of time. Different countries, Germany and UK, for example, do have different filing frequencies, which means when you have to account for and pay the VAT to the tax office. In the UK specifically, that is accounted for each quarter. So you do have a 3-month period where you are making sales, and on each sale charging UK VAT. And at the end of that quarter, you are then required to pay over all of the VAT collected on sales to the UK tax office. So again, different countries and multiple countries, it does get confusing. I think the best time to really discuss the nuances is on an individual basis. Now, once your goods are in the UK, right, you are VAT registered, you are charging 20% VAT, and you start getting orders from Germany. The concept in the EU is called a distance sale. And what that means is you are not required to register for that in Germany if you sell below 100,000 euros from the UK to German customers directly. Now that 100,000 euros is the sales value plus VAT, right? You don't separate the two. When you reach 100,000 euros, you are then required to register for German VAT. And now on every sale above 100,000 euros, you are required to charge German VAT, and you are required to then pay the first 100,000 euros of VAT to the UK, and any VAT on sales above 100,000 euros needs to be paid to Germany. Now, again, this is quite standard across the EU. So if you do then start selling into, call it Spain, there are different thresholds. Again, thresholds are generally 35,000 euros. Germany and the UK are your biggest markets. So generally the two go hand in hand in terms of VAT registrations. And part of our service is also to ensure that you don't double pay any VAT, and that we're able to identify what VAT needs to be paid in which jurisdiction. So as confusing as it may seem in terms of how that is done, that is part of the service that your tax advisor in Europe will be able to do.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Once again, just thank you very much for joining our webinar this evening. We do appreciate it. My name's Ryan. I'm just very briefly going to speak on drop shipping on eBay. Okay. Now, essentially what drop shipping is when you are never actually owning the goods that you are selling. You have a supplier and you are making the product available for sale, but you are actually only ever really moving the product once it has already been bought, okay? So in that sense, you technically never really own the goods that you are selling, okay? Now, because of the fact that you are never owning the goods that you are selling, you do not incur VAT on yourself. Okay, because as Jonathan was explaining, when you move your stock to the UK, that would trigger a VAT registration. But because you are never actually owning the stock, then you do not incur VAT, right? So in a practical example, if I have a supplier in China and I have a buyer in Germany, the Chinese supplier is the one who will be exporting the good from China, whereas the German buyer will be the person who will be importing the product. Okay, the import VAT that Jonathan mentioned earlier is always paid for by the buyer. Okay, so in that sense, you don't ever trigger a VAT obligation upon yourself. Okay. Now, there have been a couple of problems that have emerged, especially with eBay and drop shipping. Okay, the reason for this is actually quite simple. eBay does not like the drop shipping method for two reasons, right? The first reason is that some sellers will have their products stored in an Amazon warehouse, right? Or rather, they won't have the product stored in an Amazon warehouse, but they will use fulfillment by Amazon. Okay, so a product is being bought off of eBay, but it's arriving via Amazon. Okay, so it's understandable why they don't like that. The main issue, however, when it comes to the drop shipping model on eBay, is there is no quality control. Okay, because the seller is never actually owning the stock, and because they are not buying the stock in bulk, quality controls are not a main concern of the seller. So what eBay finds is that they tend to have a lot of client complaints surrounding dropshipping, as well as having a lot of returns over the dropshipping method. Okay. Now, for these reasons, they are going to start closing down accounts that are only operating out of a drop shipping model. Okay. So if you are an eBay seller and you are drop shipping, please be aware that this may cause you issues moving forward. Okay. Now, with regards to, and you may already actually have encountered issues with eBay allowing you to drop ship further. Okay. So if you were wondering why those issues had come about, those are the reasons. Okay. Now, it is currently outside of the scope of VAT. Okay. But the laws are changing, especially in Germany. Okay. What we have found is that Germany does tend to be on the forefront of VAT laws, right? And what they have decided to do, they haven't implemented this yet, but it looks like it is the direction that they'd be heading in, is to actually apply VAT laws on dropshipping clients or dropshipping sellers based on the fact that they're still doing business within their borders. Okay. Now, this is still in the early phases of being implemented, so it is not a law as of yet, right? But very importantly, what we have seen with Germany is when they tell people they are going to change and amend laws, they do stick to those guidelines, okay? So should you be selling on Amazon or on eBay and you do hear about new laws coming in, please be advised that Germany do follow through with changes in their laws, and should there be a change in their laws for drop shipping, they will be implemented on the dates that they then put them through.
Now, again, drop shipping through Amazon using FBM, fulfillment by merchant, is very similar to eBay. Excuse me. Bearing in mind, Amazon has somewhat more control over the quality control. Again, a lot of the moves that are happening from a compliance perspective are not driven by Amazon or eBay. They're driven by the tax offices. And I would say the real straw that broke the camel's back was the influx of Chinese sellers bringing goods and selling goods in Europe and not paying import VAT and VAT compliance. And they've been looking at around the last year to find solutions. And I mean, when I say solutions, I'm saying the tax office trying to find ways to clamp down on non-compliance. So as the law states it, drop shipping, whether on eBay or Amazon, does fall outside the scope of VAT. It's a flash sale. The buyer is the importer in that it's a single order. And as it currently stands, and like my colleague Ryan said, it is outside the scope of VAT. In terms of the actual model, it is a little bit less customer orientated in that it could take 10 or 12 or 14 working days to deliver the good. However, there are new implementations coming in, and I'm sure some of you sellers that are based in Israel have probably felt it in and around this new German tax certificate, in which even if you are not required to be VAT registered, you are required to submit this tax certificate. Now, what we as a tax compliance firm found quite interesting, and it's why we believe the laws are looking at changing, is that as a non-EU based seller, you actually have to have a compliance company give you access to an address in the EU. You cannot submit that tax certificate form without having an address in the EU. So that would be a compliance firm, which would indicate you would need to be that registered to then say I'm that registered with a German company who I can use their address as they are providing fiscal rep in Germany. And that's really where our feeling and the feeling of many tax advisors we speak to is that the laws are changing. And like I said, maybe some of you sellers have felt this bite already in potentially Amazon saying to you that your account will be shut down unless you provide the certificate, or eBay reaching out to you and saying if you do any activities in Germany, then you need to speak to a tax advisor. And technically speaking, as it stands, you don't own goods in Europe and you don't distance sell into Europe. So where that tends to lead is that they are looking at their new laws to make it that those that drop ship are required to pay VAT and to VAT register. Now, I did just want to kind of show you some VAT rates in EU so that as a business you can also begin to factor these costs in. Bearing in mind these are sunken costs, that costs you have to charge, but it's not necessarily your income. It is required to be paid over to the tax authorities. All EU businesses incur this cost. So as a non-EU seller, it's potentially cheaper to sell, and I think that is again why sellers want to, or tax officers want to, make sellers become VAT compliant. You can see it ranges from around 17 in Luxembourg, and it maxes out at, it looks like 25 in Sweden. Those are generally your biggest markets. Again, here are some selling thresholds. As you can see, the average is, or not the average, the majority of the thresholds is 35,000 euros. So that means in the example at the beginning of the webinar, if you own goods in the UK, these are the values that you need to sell under to only have a UK registration. If you sell above those values, you are required to then get a foreign VAT number and start paying foreign VAT. Now, it seems like VAT registering is complex and there's only negatives to it. With that being said, there are actually some pros to VAT registering in a country. The first is that accounts don't get shut down, and the German tax office being the strictest and the UK already having enacted new finance laws are shutting down Amazon accounts. They're doing it for already 6 months. Drop shipping is the next kind of market they're looking at going after. And if you VAT registered, there's no consequence of a shutdown. You're compliant, you pay your VAT, and you can continue trading. So that is actually a big benefit when trading in UK is how you generate income. With that being said, an additional benefit is that when you bring your stock into the UK, you are required to pay input VAT. So this is import VAT and VAT on purchases. So if you purchase any stock or you incur any costs as a business, all of these costs go onto your VAT return. And at the end of the quarter, all costs are accumulated and they are offset against all the VAT that you have accrued against sales. So just for example, you incur 100 euros worth of VAT and your sales accrue 300 euros worth of VAT. The two offset each other, and you as a seller are only then required to pay an additional 200, which is the total 300 minus the 100 you have already paid. So you then begin to work towards only paying the amount that is required, and you are never double paying, and you are also fully compliant, allowing you to continue trading without the threat of being shut down. Now, this was quite an interesting question in that corporate taxes in your local country is something you can be quite efficient with. The business structure you have, the profits you make. VAT, not necessarily. If certain activities are done, if you own stock and off that stock you then distance sell, you don't really have much of a choice. You can try and trade non-compliantly. I think those days are quite numbered. There was a time when the EU was a little bit behind on the e-commerce and the VAT and the trading. I think now there's a huge focus on it and ensuring that they get sellers compliant. But again, it is a legal requirement to trade, and the consequence is actually the penalties are quite harsh. That can range from late filing fees to a percentage of turnover, and in extreme circumstances, accounts being shut down. So that means no business for potentially 2 or 3 months. So again, it was a bit of a strange question because you can't really be efficient in it, but you can be ahead of the curve and ensure that you don't incur those costs. Now, this first slide is actually labeled incorrectly, excuse me, but these fees are our VATGlobal fees. You can see there we have certain cost structures. So generally we charge a once-off registration fee, and we charge a filing fee each time you are required to submit a VAT return. And as you can see there, in Germany, there is an annual declaration. And again, with UK and Germany being the biggest markets, I thought the simplest thing was to show you the fees for Germany and UK. The discount that VATGlobal and Lior have discussed for the sellers that come through his channel will apply to the other jurisdictions. However, for simplicity's sake, Germany and UK are displayed here on the first slide. And then on the second slide, you can actually see the discount has gone down from $375 if you were to come through to us normally to $250 for the once-off. And you can then see the reduction in fees from $160 per filing to $135. And again, the annual declaration is actually a lot of work. No discount is currently there. However, we also provide bulk discounts. So if sellers were using the pan-European model, for example, we do provide bulk discounts, which again can be discussed on a case-by-case basis. Now, in order to gain access to these fees, it was discussed at the beginning, please reach out to Lior if any of your activities are giving you any issues in terms of Amazon or eBay, or you are doing any of these activities that you are now aware of the VAT consequences, and Lior will then forward your details on to myself and Ryan, and we will then reach out to you to have a more in-depth discussion as to how VATGlobal can assist you with either becoming compliant or getting you compliant from a non-compliant perspective. Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you. Can you tell us how much time it's taking to open a VAT account?
So there's massive delays at the tax office. I would say in the UK, you're looking at around 3 to 4 weeks. And in Germany, you're looking at around 4 to 6 weeks. The more VAT numbers you add, the longer it takes because the more documentation you are required to submit. So I would say you're looking at around 4 to 3 months depending on the number of VAT numbers you are looking for.
So and also you say that in Germany they are going to make a new law that everybody will need to open a VAT account even if they are doing only drop shipping. So it's better to them to start opening the VAT now if it's taking about 6 months, 6 weeks, right?
So that is correct. Again, we're not definitively saying that the law will change. I don't work in the German lawmakers, but it is all pointing in that direction. And again, if sellers are not desperate to do it, there's no law that says you must do it now. But having your account shut down for 2 months when the law changes, again, it is a business decision that sellers have to evaluate which one makes the most sense.
And just to expand on that, we do strongly urge any sellers on Amazon or on eBay who do receive notifications regarding German VAT obligations, because we have personally worked with clients whose Germany accounts are currently shut down because they did not act fast enough. So if you do get any notifications from any of the platforms that you are selling on, it is advisable that you act as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. People, if you have, guys, if you have some question, please write them. And if you cannot write them in the chat, send me a SMS, a WhatsApp, and I will tell Jonathan and Ryan what you are asking for. And I just want to say, you told me before that if I'm selling, for example, I'm doing FBM, fulfilled by merchant, and I'm selling from the UK to Germany, I can open a VAT account in Germany and not in the UK from the beginning, not from the $100,000 to pay only 19% VAT, not 20, right?
So if you VAT register where you own goods, so it wouldn't make sense to own goods in the UK and VAT register in Germany. So if Germany is your biggest market, then I think business sense would be to put your stock in Germany and VAT register in Germany, and then you sell to the UK as well, and you charge 19%. It doesn't necessarily make your goods cheaper, in that a seller in the UK can be €1 less, charging 20%, and it's the same price. It's really where you own stock is where you VAT register, and which is the market that makes the most sense for you.
Okay, let me say some words in Hebrew. חברים, יש למישהו שאלות, זה הזמן, כי אנחנו עוד 5 דקות מקסימום סוגרים את הוובינר, כי החבר'ה האנגלים צריכים ללכת, ואם למישהו יש שאלות אחר כך, אז הוא יכול לפנות אליי. יש לכם פה מוצג המייל שלי, אפשר גם ליצור קשר דרך קבוצת הפייסבוק, מיסים בעולם האי-קומרס, לרשום שם. המחירים שראיתם, הורדתי אותם במחירים כמו שראיתם, וזה רק בתנאי שהם יקבלו ממני רשימת אקסל עם שם ומייל, אני אעביר להם, ואז הם ייתנו להם את המחירים האלה, זה ההסכמה שלי איתם, אז מי שירצה יכול ליצור איתי קשר, ואני אעביר את הפרטים אליהם, ויוכל לקבל מהם את המחירים האלה. סיכמתי איתם שמי שיבקש יותר מדינות, אז הם ייתנו לו הנחה נוספת, אבל זה כבר אתם תצטרכו להסתדר מולם, ולהגיד שהגעתם מהוובינר, והבטחתי לכם, והם הבטיחו לי, אז תהנו מזה. אם למישהו יש שאלות, אם לא, אז אנחנו ניפרד מהם. בכל מקרה, לטובת אנשים שגם פנו אליי קודם, וגם שנמצאים פה, וגם כאלה שכתבו לי בוואטסאפ שלא שומעים כל הזמן, יהיה הקלטה, הוובינר הזה מוקלט, אני אקבל את הלינק להקלטה ואני אפיץ אותו ואני אקליט. ישראל, איזה בדיוק שירות הם נותנים? הם נותנים שירות גם של הרישום, של הוואט במדינה שאתה תרצה, וגם הניהול של זה. הניהול של זה להגיש דוחות, יש מדינות שזה פעם בחודש, יש מדינות שזה פעם ברבעון, תלוי באיזה תדירות צריך, הם מקזזים לך את המס של המחירות, מהמס של הקניות, ומשלמים את היתרה. יש מדינות כמו גרמניה שצריך גם דוח שנתי, אז הם גם מטפלים את זה. איזה עוד הודעות כתבו לי, 100,000 מחירות בגרמניה זה לשנה או בכלל, אני חושב שזה לשנה, אני אשאל. I have a question here about the 100,000 euro threshold sale in Germany. It's for a year or it's from now, from the beginning until I'm getting there?
It's within a year's period, in a 24 rolling month period.
12 months, not 24. 12 months period.
Correct, per annum. It's 100,000 euros per annum.
We have 12, not 24. So if I'm selling in 24, every time they are looking for the 12 months before how much sales I had?
Correct.
All right. Let's see if I have more questions in the WhatsApp that they're sending me. So they ask about your services. I already answered it in Hebrew. And okay, so I don't see there are any other questions. If they will have, I will send it directly to you guys and you will answer them directly. This session is being recorded, so I will send it to you. Yeah, send it to me and I will post the record so people can see all the people that told me that they cannot be in the webinar and they want to see it, and also you guys, if you want to see it, because it was in English, it was very fast and you didn't understand everything, you will get the webinar record and you can listen it again. Jonathan, Ryan, thank you very much for your time.
Leon, thank you very much for setting this up. We really appreciate it. And again, anyone that is a little bit confused or looking for any advice, feel free to reach out and get a deeper understanding. And looking forward to assisting any seller and looking forward to doing some more good work with Leon.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We really do appreciate it. Like Jonathan said, should you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We do understand from Lior that tomorrow night's a big night for you guys at Maccabi Tel Aviv, so best of luck in the basketball, and we look forward to hearing from you guys soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.